Hello, this is Little Green Ghouls, and welcome to Fear Street Explored, where your worst nightmares live. This week, I'm excited to visit the Stepsister. I'll just say it right now, this has been my favorite Fear Street book so far. Emily is a likable protagonist who is seemingly under attack at every turn, and Stine does a great job fleshing out a whole cast of potential suspects. This book feels grounded in some uncomfortable family drama in all the best ways, while adding some Fear Street spice. It's definitely worth checking out if you haven't yet. This 1990 cover is a lot of fun. I always like when they give us a solid look at the main characters in the story, and in this one, we get a good look at Emily and her stepsister Jessie, who are both sporting some quintessential early 90s outfits. I just love the setup of Jessie lurking in the mirror. But let's check out the full blurb on the back. Just how dangerous is Jessie? Emily wants to like her new stepsister, but Jessie doesn't make it easy for her. As soon as Jessie moves in, she takes over Emily's room, starts wearing Emily's clothes, makes secret late night phone calls on Emily's phone, and that's just the beginning. Before long, Emily is living in total fear of her stepsister. Emily tries complaining to her parents, but Jessie is such a good liar, no one will believe Emily. Emily's terror mounts when she picks up Jessie's diary and learns a horrifying secret from Jessie's past. Did Jessie really murder someone? Does she plan to murder again? Emily knows she must find out the rest of her stepsister's dark secret. Her own life depends on it. Okay, let's start this summary. The book opens with an introduction to Emily Casey, and she's fat and hates her hair apparently. I guess she also hates her big hands, so Emily has some body image issues to work through. Emily is busy getting ready with her older sister Nancy. The two girls are a little anxious because their step-siblings, Jessie and Rich, are coming to live with them permanently on Fear Street. This also means they'll now have a stepfather, Hugh, to deal with. Nancy is over Emily's dramatics and thinks she's just nervous because Emily will be forced to share a room with Jessie. Emily has gotten along well with Jessie in the past, but sharing a room is kind of a big deal. Emily thinks as long as her mom is finally happy, she can put up with it, even if she doesn't like Hugh all that much. We're introduced to the family dog Tiger, who is a cute little white terrier, who I'm immediately concerned for because Emily really loves this dog, which can't bode well for Tiger. Jessie, Rich, and Hugh all arrive, and we have some uncomfortable family time as everybody tries to adjust to this new normal. Rich is the youngest at 13 and very awkward and quiet. Jessie's the same age as Emily and also a little quiet too, but seems to be putting more of an effort in to get along with everyone. Rich gets some bonus points though for currently reading Stephen King's Pet Sematary. Emily and Jessie head upstairs to unpack, and we learn Jessie's friendly act is all a facade. Once Emily and Jessie are one-on-one, she begins insulting the house, Emily's mom, and whatever else crosses her path. Emily is visibly shocked at the sudden change in Jessie, so Jessie tries to do some damage control and says she's just stressed out from being shuffled between houses all these years and feels like her actual mom doesn't even want her. Tiger comes in happily to greet Jessie, but she freaks out because she thinks he's disgusting and shoves him away hard. Jessie picks up an old teddy bear that Emily tells her she's had since she was 1 year old, so it's special to her. But when Jessie learns she's not getting the side of the room that she wants, she tears off the bear's head. Emily is in for a rough book. Jessie insists it was an accident, even though Emily clearly watched her tear the bear's head off like 3 seconds ago. Nancy stops by to see how things are going between the two, and quickly gathers, not well. Nancy changes the subject and mentions how Rich sure is quiet, and Jessie's basically like, yeah, he's a little freak who only reads Stephen King. So Emily thinks, damn, this girl has a mean streak in her. We then get some fun ex-drama between sisters. Apparently Emily is dating Nancy's ex-boyfriend Josh. The teenagers of Fear Street have no loyalty. Everyone's dating someone's ex, siblings included. Nancy leaves and Jessie's immediately like, wow, are you really dating your sister's old boyfriend? And then begins rearranging the room how she wants it. We jump to the welcome celebration downstairs, which is just as awkward as it was upstairs. Emily's mom jokes about Jessie being too skinny, and they all take turns picking on Rich for being too quiet until he finally takes his book and storms off upstairs. As a fellow quiet person, nothing is more annoying than when somebody takes it upon themselves to halt a group conversation to point out they were being too quiet. It's always like, gee, thank you so much, now I really feel like talking. Hugh then goes on to mock his son for being such a bookworm and brags how he hasn't picked up a book since high school, while Emily's mom throws in that she's concerned that he's too young to be reading Stephen King. The family dynamics in this story are too real, and I'm uncomfortable. This all causes Emily to reflect on how much she misses her dad, who is a pediatrician and basically the opposite of Hugh. She also starts thinking about the day he died, and we learn he died out on Fear Island, last seen in the overnight. The whole family had been camping, despite it still being a little too cold out. It was a stormy day, so Emily and her dad were out on the boat enjoying the action of the waves. Emily went to hand her dad a thermos of coffee when all hell broke loose. A sudden gust of strong wind caused the boat to capsize and threw them into the icy water. Emily was able to grab onto the side of the boat, and then, a few minutes later, her dad's dead body floated past her, face down in the water. We then jump to a few days later, and Emily is on the phone with her boyfriend Josh, reporting how things with Jessie still aren't going great. She heads down for a macaroni dinner, where we have more awkward family time. Rich is eating slowly, so Hugh tells him to eat more and he won't look like a noodle. This enrages Rich because he's over his dad always insulting him, and he storms off to his room again. Emily and Jessie then get into a fight because Jessie took one of her sweaters without asking and keeps insisting that it's actually hers. Emily's mom then wants to know who's going to help clear the table, and Hugh declares, not him, that's why he loves living with 4 women. This does not earn him any favor with Emily and Nancy, who are growing to dislike him more and more with each passing day. Emily returns to her room to work on her 14-page social studies report on this 1990 computer with an amber screen. She steps away for a snack, where she sees Hugh and her mom making out on the couch like teenagers. When she returns, she finds Jessie seated at her computer, but when Emily shoos her away, she discovers that the entire 14-page report has been deleted. Emily loses it and proceeds to tackle Jessie to the floor and starts pounding her face in. Her mom and Hugh have to pry the girls apart, and Emily is shocked by her own reaction. She tries to explain what Jessie did, but Jessie just denies deleting the report. Emily's mom then tries to get Emily to apologize to Jessie, which she does, but only because she doesn't want to get grounded from seeing Josh. When the adults leave, Jessie warns Emily to never do anything like that again or she'll regret it. Tiger then comes prancing into the room, and when he tries to sniff Jessie, she kicks at him, causing him to yelp and run away. I think Jessie's an asshole, but I also think it's too obvious that she's the sole problem. I suspect that Rich is a part of this too, maybe. Emily heads into Nancy's room to vent about Jessie. Nancy shares that Emily needs to take it easy on Jessie because Jessie has some serious emotional problems and sees a psychiatrist twice a week. Nancy also says that she got into some big trouble at her last school, but doesn't know what for. She just thinks Emily needs to stay out of Jessie's way. Josh then stops by that night for some teen romance. At one point, Emily spots Jessie creeping on them in the hallway, so Emily just decides to make out with Josh aggressively in response. Later, Emily is fast asleep when she's awoken by low whispering. She groggily sits up and spots Jessie on the phone in the corner of the room and overhears her say, "I could kill her. I really could kill her." At school the next day, we have a whirlwind of cameos from kids we've seen in previous books, like Della, Ricky, Corey, and Lisa. They don't seem to serve much of a purpose, other than for the reader to be like, hey, I know those names. Emily moves through the crowded hallways and spots Jessie and Josh chatting and getting a little too close for Emily's comfort. She moves in and reminds Josh that the homecoming dance is this Friday, and he's fairly dismissive about it. We hop to 2 days later, where Emily and Jessie are getting along a little better. They've decided to make a cake together for a little late night snack, but this devolves into a playful whipped cream war that literally lasts 3 pages, and even Nancy gets in on the action. Emily heads to the shower to scrub off all this whipped cream, but when she hops out and looks in the mirror, she starts screaming bloody murder. The entire family basically busts into this bathroom and can see that Emily has now some bleached chunks of her hair. Hugh looks in the trash and pulls out a bottle of peroxide and deduces somebody mixed it with Emily's shampoo. This is just like Matilda.
Michael, come into my room. There's a sucker born every minute. We're gonna take him for all he got. What's wrong with you? What are you looking at?
Nancy then points out that Jessie was in the bathroom for an awful long time earlier that night. This devolves into a shouting match with Jessie versus everyone, and she says, "You all think I did it, don't you?" Jessie asked, looking from one face to the next. Everyone thinks that because of what happened to Julie, that I'm a horrible person who would do anything. That is what you think, isn't it? Jessie, stop screaming. Everyone, stop screaming, Hugh said, slamming his hands against the sides of the sink. I get accused of everything that happens around here, Jessie cried, ignoring him, and I know why too. Don't think I don't know why. These last words were spoken to her father. Emily is still distraught about her new hair color, but is also taking in all this info on the mystery Jolie. A couple days later on homecoming night, Emily's feeling a little better about her hair because Nancy was able to trim up the bad parts and make it look like highlights. She's nervous for Josh to see it though, because he's been out of school for the past couple days sick. There's a commotion downstairs, and the sisters race to see what's happening. They find Rich in the doorway with a policeman because it turns out he got caught shoplifting cassette tapes. Jessie tries to comfort her brother, but he remains cold towards her. At the dance, Josh doesn't really seem to notice a big change in Emily's hair, but they're still having a good time. On the way to the bathroom, Emily runs into Krista, the only girl Jessie seems to have made friends with, and who is also one of the few people Emily doesn't care for at Shadyside. She compliments Emily's new hair color, which Emily is immediately suspicious of and thinks Jessie must have bragged about ruining her hair. She then returns to the dance to listen to Stine's new favorite song.
Pump up the jam, pump it up. Oh, get your booty
Emily comes home late after a fun night that's about to rapidly go downhill. She enters the house and is confused when she isn't greeted by Tiger. She walks into the kitchen and finds his poor little dead body that's been stabbed in the chest. She starts screaming for help, and her whole family comes downstairs and is in shock. Jessie is freaking out too, but Emily doesn't believe her and starts accusing her of killing Tiger. Throughout all of this, Rich is notably quiet, so I think Emily needs to direct some suspicion his way. The mom suggests that maybe somebody broke into the house and killed Tiger, or maybe that he fell on something sharp, because she's useless. Nancy then pipes in that she heard Rich walking around that night, but he insists he was just getting a glass of water. Nancy then reminds everyone that he was reading Pet Sematary, which has dead pets in it. This causes him to storm off to his room once again. He then declares that he might have to send both of his kids to a shrink now. Emily heads upstairs and finds that Jessie has drawn her a bath so she can wash all the blood off. I feel like a bath is the last thing I'd want at this moment after somebody just stabbed my dog. A shower, yes, to get the blood off, but who wants to sit in a bathtub filled with dog blood residue? Emily heads into the bathroom to take a bath, but can't. The tub is supposedly filled with her favorite lilac bath oil, but she's too paranoid that Jessie could have added something else to the water, like more peroxide or even acid. Emily heads back to her room after washing up in the sink, and Jessie says she's not going to let the bath go to waste and leaves. Emily goes to sleep and has a nightmare where Jessie and Krista are getting ready to stab her, but wakes up to Rich shaking her awake by the shoulder. He just wants her to know that he didn't kill her dog and has tears in his eyes, so she tells him she believes him, even though she's not fully convinced. Emily then notices Jessie isn't in her bed and that their bedroom window is wide open. She uses this alone time to snoop through Jessie's diary, where she learns that this mystery Jolie was found with Jessie when she died in an apparent fall of some kind, right after the girls had some sort of fight. Emily is a terrible snoop and thinks this is enough reading for now and goes to bed. I think it's weird she didn't try to read about the hair or Tiger situation, or at least stay up long enough to find out where she went in the middle of the night. Bad writing on Stine's part. Breakfast the next morning is extra weird as everyone ignores the elephant in the room, that is Tiger's murder, and Emily leaves to meet a friend for a school project. She considers writing out Jessie for sneaking out last night, but decides to save it as blackmail for later. When Emily reaches the school, she's in for a nasty surprise, because when she opens her backpack, she finds the bloody corpse of Tiger stuffed inside. We then jump to 3 days later, and Emily hasn't spoken a word to Jessie since the Tiger incident. They head down for dinner, and Emily notices Rich has a black eye and 3 stitches on his cheek, and he remarks that he got into another fight after school. I'm also pretty suspicious of this dad being secretly abusive or something. Really, this whole step family can go at this point. Emily reflects in passing that Jessie is still having secret late night phone calls every night, and even snuck out again, but hasn't bothered to tell anyone about this for some reason. Later, Josh stops by to study with Emily, but she catches him chatting downstairs with Jessie and being a little flirty with her, which sends Emily into a rage. She walks outside with Josh and confronts him about Jessie, and he says he doesn't get why she's so angry at Jessie all the time, where Emily corrects him she's not angry with Jessie, she's terrified of her, because she thinks this girl's legit psychotic. Emily then looks up and can see Jessie watching their argument from the bedroom window and feels a stab of fear. I'd dump Josh right now if he was siding with my potential dog-murdering stepsister about anything. At school a few days later, Emily is confronted by Jessie's only friend Krista, who wants to know why Emily is treating Jessie so terribly. Emily doesn't dignify this with a response and storms off, but is concerned that the entire school is going to think she's some sort of horrible asshole, since Krista is a notorious gossip. Emily bumps into Nancy in the hallway, and she notices she's looking extra run down and more stressed than ever. Hell, at this point, maybe Nancy is a suspect, because Stine spends a bit too long pointing out just how she hasn't been herself in a while. Emily then runs into Jessie in the bathroom, where Jessie laments that she can't take the silent treatment anymore. Emily is basically like, "Too bad, so sad," and apologizes for nothing. Jessie bursts into tears and runs out of the bathroom. Emily then heads into a stall to clear her head, and her bowels I guess, because she's in there for like 20 minutes when she suddenly smells smoke. She exits the toilet stall and sees that the bathroom is filling with smoke because somebody's come in and set the trash on fire. She tries to run out of the bathroom door, but it's jammed shut. She then tries to open a window, but it's painted over and won't budge. The wall itself has now caught fire and the room is filling with thick black smoke, and Emily passes out from the smoke inhalation. She wakes up to a teacher dragging her out of the bathroom and learns that somebody stuffed a wedge under the door. That's how she was sealed in. Nancy takes Emily home, and on the drive, finally agrees that Jessie is dangerous, and plans to watch her closely from now on. We then jump to days later and find Emily, Nancy, and Jessie en route to a concert. Josh was supposed to go, but had to cancel last minute, which is how Jessie got herself invited. Inside the venue, the girls are disappointed to see that they're at the very top of the stadium, just 3 rows from the very back. This all feels set up for somebody to take a tumble down these stairs, because Stine spends a lot of time pointing out just how high up they all are, and it doesn't take me long to be proven right. Nancy steps away to chat with a friend she spots nearby. Emily then decides she wants to go grab a soda before the show starts, but as she's walking down this concrete mountain, the lights cut out for the concert to start, and someone shoves her hard from behind. Emily goes tumbling down these stairs, whacking her head along the way until a stranger manages to grab onto her and stop her momentum. As she was tumbling, she could see Jessie standing triumphantly at the top of the stairs, but now that Emily has stopped rolling, Jessie comes over with Nancy and acts all concerned. It's then a few days later, and Emily's walking home from a late night study session. It's freezing out, so Emily is hurrying along Fear Street, trying her best not to get creeped out, when she spots Josh's car parked down the street. She thinks it's odd he didn't park in her driveway, but thinks maybe he stopped by to surprise her, until she sees that the windows are all fogged up. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Emily approaches the car and spots Jessie in a full-on makeout session with Josh. I mean, if he'll leave your sister for you, he's probably not the most loyal guy to start with, but I still think Emily should go all lemonade on his car.
My head for one. What's worst? Low down. They don't love me like I love you. What's up?
Instead, Emily just runs away without confronting anyone. She runs blindly down Fear Street for a bit before she channels her shock into a proper rage. Then she turns back to go confront Jessie and Josh. Sadly, when she gets back to the house, the car is gone and Jessie isn't home. Emily doesn't want to tell Nancy anything yet about the cheating situation because she wants to save all her rage for when Jessie returns. When she goes to her room, she's startled to find Rich laying on her bed reading a book. He looks embarrassed and said he heard noises in his room and got creeped out. It then occurs to her that Rich has been living with her for weeks and she doesn't know anything about him other than that he's shy, likes to read Stephen King and gets into trouble occasionally, and always looks guilty or nervous. She suddenly feels bad for him and offers to let him stay and read, but he retreats back to his room. Emily then paces the room before deciding to get into her flannel pajamas, but she can't find them and decides to check Jessie's drawers to see if she took those too. But instead she comes across a large bloody kitchen knife and knows right away it was used to kill Tiger. Stine is then a buzzkill and jumps a couple nights ahead, so we don't get to see the Emily and Jessie cheating blowout. It's dinner time and Hugh shares that they're going to be flying to South Carolina to go camping as a family, which isn't well received by anyone except the useless mom. It's almost like these girls lost their dad while camping or something. Apparently, Emily showed Nancy the bloody knife that night, so they stashed it away in order to present their evidence in a later grand reveal when they expose what a psychopath Jessie is. Then, half a page later, Stine has taken this family to South Carolina for camping. I really didn't expect them to go this late in the story with like 20 pages left. They're all trucking through the woods as Hugh points out various trees and shrubs, while Nancy and Emily reply sarcastically to everything he says. They pass an old cemetery and then decide to finally set up camp. I still want to know how she confronted cheating-ass Josh, but Stine has decided to skip over the juicy stuff for some reason. Emily, Nancy, and Jessie get tasked with gathering firewood, but this quickly goes south when Emily loses track of Nancy and starts to get turned around in these woods. She's stuck out there with just Jessie and decides to sneak away while she can. She ends up coming across the graveyard they all passed earlier, and someone shoves her from behind and she falls into an open grave. Emily notices that she's landed next to a decaying rabbit, and she tries her best to crawl out of the grave, but it's too deep. She ends up clawing dirt down into the grave so she can stand up a little higher, and actually manages to pull herself halfway out of the grave, until a shovel comes whizzing down and smacks onto her arm, breaking it. Emily tumbles back into the grave now with a broken arm and has to dodge shovel swings aimed at her head. She keeps shouting at Jessie to stop, but it still feels too obvious to be her, because it is. In the moonlight, Emily looks up and spots Nancy. I thought she seemed suspicious before the fire. Nancy starts to give her villain monologue, where she says it's Emily's fault that their dad died because she saved herself and let him drown. Nancy then says how Emily took the only two men she ever loved, her dad and Josh. So, Nancy's been harboring some intense bitterness about Emily stealing her man. Nancy then reveals it was actually her in the car with Josh a few days ago, along with everything else Emily thought Jessie had done, and now Nancy has decided to finally kill her once and for all. Nancy then starts chucking dirt into Emily's face and plans to bury her alive. Nancy keeps repeating, "Bury you, bury you, bury you," to herself until she suddenly gets cut off. Emily can hear sounds of a struggle, and it becomes clear that Jessie's now trying to fight Nancy off. Jessie gets the upper hand and manages to shove Nancy down into the grave, but this just traps Emily with a crazed Nancy because she can't get out with this broken arm. Nancy chucks the rotten rabbit corpse at Emily and declares now she's dead, but a shovel comes swinging down right onto Nancy's head and knocks her out cold. Jessie then helps Emily out of the grave and runs off to get help, leaving Emily there to process what the fuck just happened. We then jump to a day later for a couple pages of resolution. Nancy has been sent to a mental hospital, Emily has her arm in a cast, and now Jessie and her are trauma bonding. We learn Jessie has a secret boyfriend named Darren, who she's been on the phone with and sneaking out to meet. Jessie says all this sneaking around was making her act strange, and the fact that she couldn't figure out why her new stepsister hated her so much. Also, her friend Jolie really did die in a tragic accident, and all the kids at her old school spread rumors that she killed her because she was the one to find her body first. Emily promises she'll be a better sister now, and Rich appears to tell them both that lunch is ready. Rich is no longer reading Stephen King and has moved on to the Hardy Boys, which they all find hilarious for some reason. So, that's how this one ends. Emily has new siblings, and everything is going to be just fine. Overall, I thought The Stepsister was a great read. I was fully invested in Emily's step-family drama and enjoyed the mystery aspect of this one. Even if in hindsight, Nancy being overly nice should have been a big clue, this one felt suspenseful in its own way, with me just waiting to see what horrible thing would happen to Emily in every chapter, while also fully enjoying the awkwardness of these two families blending together. I found the sudden shift to camping in South Carolina in the last few pages really odd, and don't understand why Stine didn't just work in a trip to Fear Street Cemetery for a graveyard climax, considering they lived close to it on Fear Street already. But I'm still going to give this one 5 out of 5 amber monitors. I think this is the first Fear Street book I've given 5 stars. Okay, for Fear Street deaths in The Stepsister, there were none. Emily's dad did die in a tragic accident near Fear Island, but this happened pre-book, so it doesn't count. This leaves our Fear Street series total at 8 deaths. In Fat 90s Moments, we had 7 this week, and they were kind of fun. These included Sassy Magazine, Amber Computer Screens, Cassette Tapes, Trapper Keepers, Pet Cemetery, Dayglow, and another appearance of Pump Up the Jam. This brings our Fear Street series total to 56. For Useless Adults, we had 2. Hugh and Emily's mom make quite the pair as horrible things keep happening all around them, including the stabbing of the family dog, and they could give 2 shits. They're too busy making out on the couch. This brings our Fear Street series total to 13. Tainted Love returns this week, and it's mostly centered around cheating-ass Josh. First, he leaves Nancy for her sister Emily, then he turns around and cheats on Emily with Nancy. It's a very messy love triangle that nearly gets Emily killed. This gives us a Fear Street series total of 9. We had some X drama for sure in this one. This one again involves Josh as he bounces between sisters. I don't know how Emily thought this was going to be okay. This brings our Fear Street series total to 4. Cheesy ending is kind of up for debate this week because it ends on a positive note with Emily, Jessie, and Rich all bonding, but it's not over the top syrupy sweet like we've seen before, so this leaves our Fear Street series total at 6. Well, that's it for The Stepsister. I had a great time reading this book, and I thought the mystery was well crafted, and I'm a sucker for sloppy family drama. Next week, we're looking at Ski Weekend, and based off this cover, it looks like we could have a masked killer lurking around the ski lodge, but we'll see. Let me know in the comments what you thought of The Stepsister. Who was your number 1 suspect? Would you date a sibling's ex, or do you have dignity? What do you think is in store for The Stepsister 2? Also, what did you think of my evil sibling-ish horror clips this week? I thought about confining it to just stepsisters only, but that ended up being too narrow. Anyways, as always, thanks again for watching, and make sure you subscribe for
The pride. The love.